So I saw the headline, President Joe Biden should pardon Trump. And it just made me laugh. Like, it shows there is no difference. There is no difference in the Republicans, the Democrats. They're the elite and they don't care about us. Right when I saw that, I was like, why shouldn't he say Joe Biden should pardon everyone? Pardon the entire country. Tell everybody, if you did anything bad, you got one chance. You got one more chance. And then let it all out. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. I didn't watch this yet. I want to hear what he has to say. Stephen A. Smith and Chris
You
Cuomo.
know, the Biden situation disgusted me in terms of the parting only from this standpoint, Chris. Nobody on the planet, you want to be a cynic and you want to act like you would be offended by something like that if you're one of those people out there, fine. But no one within reason would have a problem with him saying, it's my son. I love him. There's no way I'm sending him to jail. And I have the power to avoid it. Nobody would blame him for that. But that's not where
I do. And even he put our sons in jail, all kinds of sons in jail. A quarter, the size of a quarter of crack, would put you in jail for 5 years. Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was weighed out, what, 20.8 grams or something like that? That's like several, 10 quarters worth of crack or more.
he went. So I didn't have a problem to answer your question directly with the decision that he made to pardon his son. Boo Boo the Fool knew he was going to do that. I don't care who he stood in front of or sat in front of and said that he wasn't going to pardon his son and he was just going to go by the letter of the law.
Why is it
Everybody
okay
and their
that
grandmother knew he was going
everyone
to pardon his
lies?
son.
Like
But to
politicians
come
like,
out
okay,
and to start talking
we
about
know
how
he's
it's been a
lying.
witch hunt and the Department of Justice and others were after him or whoever it was, and the GOP rather was after him. Well, wait a minute. What have y'all been doing with Donald Trump all of these years? Now, you can make an argument about the legitimacy of the cases against Donald Trump compared to what wasn't legitimate, etc. That's not the point. The point is it was clearly politicized. You had folks on the left who were hell-bent on going after Donald Trump because they were determined to make sure that he couldn't run for re-election or that these elements would get in the way of him possibly winning re-election. And now we know why more than ever, because they weren't confident they would ever be able to beat him. He'd been a Republican nominee since 2016. He beat Hillary Clinton with the Electoral College vote. He wouldn't concede defeat in 2020, but he did receive over 74 million votes at that particular moment in time. And then you fast forward 4 years later, despite the 34 felony convictions, the 2 impeachments, the bevy of crimes that he had been accused of, the Republican voters out there, the conservative voters out there, and a lot of independents from various communities said, he's the guy we want, and I've said it on many, many occasions. It wasn't about him. Just like it wasn't about Biden in 2020, it was more against Trump. In this particular instance, it was an indictment against the Biden administration, what had been going on for the last 4 years, some of the things going on with the border, obviously inflation, of course, crime in the streets, of course, woke and cancel culture and all of that, it all played a role. And so for him to come out and to talk about that this was a witch hunt when clearly it could be argued that's exactly what you were doing to Donald Trump, what you assisted in doing, seems beyond hypocritical. And that was what disgusted me. It wasn't his decision. It wasn't him pardoning his son. It was the weak, pathetic explanation that he gave, which has most critics just shaking their heads and raising their eyebrows and saying, what nerve you have.
Now, I agree with you 100%. I went light on that point in my open because I knew you were going to make it. I agree with you 100%. And he didn't have to do it that way. He could have just said what you said, which is,
Just
or, hey, look, I don't want them. He's my son, and they're going to go after him. And if I can protect him, I'm going to protect him. You know what else Biden should do?
But the thing is, Joe Biden is on camera saying he doesn't care why people have gotten to where they are, that he's going to lock them up, that he doesn't care that they didn't have a good chance in life and that they were born at the bottom, that they're just doing the stuff that they're doing. He has to lock them up. Hunter Biden had every chance in life to do greatness or whatever. He had every chance at life to have a good education, to be whatever. Donald Trump has never touched a drug in his life, or at least that's what he says. And I mean, I kind of believe him, but still, Joe Biden, even when he was running for president, I don't know if it was when he was running for president or when he was already president, he said he had no empathy for millennials that were struggling. And now I understand you have empathy for your kid, but we're supposed to understand and we're supposed to care about Hunter Biden because Joe Biden doesn't care about anybody else's kid? That's insane.
And I know people are going to get upset about this, but just think about it before you go crazy on me. Not you,
Sure.
everybody else. If I were he, I would pardon Trump.
That's a great elitist thought.
Honestly,
I would say
honestly,
this
as
has gotta
crazy as this
stop.
sounds, Chris,
I'd pardon.
Chris, that's exactly what I would do. That's exactly what I would do. Enough's enough. You know what? You're the
Enough.
Democrats. You lost the election. You got your butt whipped. You couldn't prevent him from going back to the White House.
I can't
More than a
believe these
dozen
guys are
cases have been
saying
dropped
this.
against him. The cases that have been ruled against him, he's going to
Give him a little
appeal
rub
and
and
finally
tug,
get
too.
off from having to deal with all of that. It's time to move forward. You want to get at Trump? Sit back and judge what he does. Guess what? You got a midterm election in 2 years. Are you going to be ready if you're the Democratic Party? You should be. You know, he's going to be the presidency for 4 years. You're going to be able to judge every single act that he does. March forward, move forward. You know, Gerald Ford could have, he could have let Nixon suffer. You know, to say he didn't let that happen. Why? Because it was for the good of the country. The whole hanging Chads issue in 2000 between George W. Bush and Al Gore. Gore could have dragged it on. He didn't. It was for the better of the country. And a lot of times these folks speak about
pardoning
this
Nixon
stuff,
was better
but
for the
they
country.
don't do what they say they're going to do and what they implore others to do, which is where the disgust elevates exponentially for Washington, D.C., because we know they're full of it most of the time. And today was the latest example of that.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to Join NN.
My. So these guys are a total joke. They should pardon Trump for the good of the country. Nixon was pardoned for the good of the country. Like when Donald Trump was saying "lock her up," and all the guys and his, or not just guys, but all his crowd was cheering "lock her up, lock her up, lock her up." Right when he won the election, and the first rally that he went to, they're like, "Lock her up, lock her up," and he's like, "No, that plays good before the election, but we don't do that now." Let me see if I can find that. Donald Trump. Oh, sorry, it's hard to talk and type at the same time. So Donald Trump, we don't do that. FTR the election. 4 years, you don't have to vote again. Let's see. Donald Trump. Let's put the locker up. LOKHERUP. See if I can find it. Donald Trump, lock her up. Okay, here. So
gives you the power of AI.
They don't arrest each other. They're all war criminals. And if they did arrest each other, then they'd have to, every time they left the presidency, they'd all get arrested because they all just are criminals.
To investigate Hillary Clinton for using a private email server that happened during one of the debates. Well, listen to what he said at one of these thank you rallies just last night.
That plays great before the election. We don't care.
Yeah, if you couldn't really decipher that, there were chants of lock her up from
Well, we'll hear what he has to say.
Now we don't care. That was before the election. But he is now talking about this so-called war on Christmas.
Oh, yeah, we don't care. Anyway, yeah, so Donald Trump, you know, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up, all before the election, talking all that mess. And then he gets elected. Nah, we don't do that afterwards. Because if he locked her up, then he'd get locked up. And then I was surprised that Joe Biden and them were putting all this, trying to put this heat on him, but it was for financial stuff. And they never really, they don't care about financial stuff, right? Like Bernie Madoff is the only person who's really ever gone to jail because he was hurting rich people, right? But Donald Trump is like, they try to find one thing that they're not doing as much of. But if you look at Nancy Pelosi stuff, her insider trading and all that, anyway, they're all the same. They all do it. They play the same game, and that's what it is. So until next time, across the spectrum, y'all.